A grieving relative wanders through a digital landscape of shadows while searching for a man who vanished into the winter mist. The flickering screen reveals a figure that should not exist in such a cold and artificial space of violent online displays. This haunting case drew global attention because the authorities allegedly attempted to bury the truth beneath a mountain of systemic silence. Many questions remain unanswered regarding how a high-ranking official could operate a chamber of horrors inside a state-run government office. The witness stares at the pixelated image of a severed head and recognizes the familiar curve of a childhood facial feature. Chills run down their spine as they realize the mannequin in the video is actually their missing brother. Gwen, Xuan Dot. The room feels unnaturally cold while the witness traces the screen. Finding a circular birthmark on the left shin they remember. An uncanny physicality defines the scene as the victim lies motionless on a plastic tarp beneath the hum of a fan. The perpetrator moves with a methodical ease that suggests the preservation of human life is merely a form of dark, twisted art. Investigators later discovered that the victim had been fixated on a delusional ritual involving his own departure from the physical world. The signature mark of the killer is a tattoo on his bicep that records a sacred date beneath an unnatural skin texture. While the family begged for help, the institutions remained indifferent to the screams echoing through the corridors of a vacant building. The perpetrator was not a common criminal but a respected clan head who allegedly viewed his actions as a divine, immortal gift. Beneath the surface of the video, the air seems heavy with the scent of metallic iron and the sound of barking dogs. A Guy Fawkes mask hides the face of the man who practices chopping motions above the neck of the willing, naked victim. The witness watches in horror as the masked figure embraces the man in a gesture of reassurance before the final act begins. The artificial setting resembles an office filled with filing cabinets, creating an eerie, uncanny valley effect for the terrified online viewers. The victim's skin appears like wax under the harsh fluorescent lights of a kitchen, where stainless steel tables wait for their burden. A dark birthmark running from the right bicep to the armpit confirms the identity of the stocky, middle-aged executioner in the selfie. Public interest surged when internet sleuths bypassed the official blackout to preserve evidence. The government tried to scrub from the web. The narrative of this tragedy is built upon the fragments of a soul who sought the ultimate release through a violent contract. Even as the videos went viral, the systemic silence of the law provided a shield for a man of significant social status. The witness cannot look away from the mirror selfie where the killer holds the head like a trophy of his completed masterpiece. Tactile details like the blue blades of a ceiling fan and red-patterned wall tiles help identify the secret location of death. The family's search for justice began in the dark corners of a private Telegram chat where human life was sold for pittance. A striped dress shirt discarded on the floor is the only remaining connection to the man who used to sell seafood. The executioner's twisted vision transformed a government office into a ritualistic altar during the quiet days of the Lunar New Year. Every strike of the black cleaver was captured by multiple cameras mounted on tripods to document the victim's transition into immortality. The internet sleuths noticed the victim had logged off his account for good, but someone else was still pulling the digital strings. A strange warmth seemed to radiate from the screen as the investigators realized the killer was watching them from the shadows. The respected official allegedly believed that he had granted the victim a sacred wish through a series of methodical, surgical strikes. Silence from the authorities only fueled the fire of the digital detectives who refused to let the victim's memory be erased. The victim had spent years in online groups seeking a partner for a beheading ritual that most people dismissed as a joke. His birth date of March 10, 1988, matched the details found by anonymous users who tracked his digital footprint across multiple platforms. The family in the village of Hao Tungu had not seen the man for years, leaving him vulnerable to a predator. A plastic water bottle with a local brand label provided the first clue that the horror was happening within the national borders. The executioner utilized his untouchable status to bypass security and carry out the dissection in a space meant for public service. Every detail of the signature mark was scrutinized by thousands of eyes until the mask of the perpetrator finally began to slip. The atmospheric noir of the crime scene was heightened by the casual presence of household items near the remains of the victim. A yellow bottle of dishwashing soap with Chinese characters suggested the killing took place in the rugged provinces of the northern border. Investigators stated that the suspect allegedly managed the victim's social media accounts for months to maintain the illusion of a living man. The systemic failure to investigate the initial reports allowed the killer to walk free while the digital world screamed for a response. This haunting narrative explores the thin line between a victim's tragic desire and a killer's opportunistic exploitation of a vulnerable mind. The somber reality of the case is that the truth only emerged because the internet refused to accept the official story of silence. As the first part of this journey ends, the digital trail leads directly to the doorstep of a man with deep, powerful connections. Digital detectives continued to follow the breadcrumbs of a man who allegedly believed his status made him completely untouchable. The investigation shifted toward a mysterious figure named Chung, who had been mentioned repeatedly in the victim's private chat logs. An anonymous source known as Phi provided screenshots suggesting that the executioner was well known within certain social circles. One specific profile drew intense scrutiny after the owner quietly removed a like from the victim's old post about beheading. When strangers messaged this individual asking for a similar fate, he allegedly replied by asking for their specific location. The haunting, somber tone of the investigation deepened as more accounts surfaced with long histories of seeking a violent end. One older profile claimed to be the executioner. Yet the confession lacked the specific physical details found in the videos. Sleuths wondered if the real owner of that account had also been preserved in a twisted ritual of immortality. The victim's Facebook page became a digital monument flooded with comments from around the world before it was suddenly locked. This sudden disappearance of the account strengthened the theory that the killer was still watching every move of the public. For 2 months, the trail went cold, and many assumed the systemic silence had finally won against the internet's persistence. In the 3rd week of November, a new set of chat logs appeared in a dedicated group for the case. These messages confirmed the execution took place on January 25. Launshending Arshawu. Exactly 3 hours after the final message was sent, the anonymous user who released these logs had also been in contact with the executioner regarding a potential meeting. A Facebook account under the name Cam Tong Chung was identified as the platform where the killer arranged his art. A YouTuber named Keto began using 3D modeling to recreate the crime scene and trace the killer's digital footprint. The investigator claimed to have found the site of the killing but suddenly stepped back due to powerful connections. He left behind a final hint, which was a distorted screenshot of a username used across several anonymous gore forums. Online sleuths removed the distortion to reveal the handle Dang Chun 1111, which led them to a new digital network. Sandal was linked to a public profile for a man named Doan Van Sang who lived in Lang Son. Records indicated that Sang was a retired deputy principal of a market management department in a northern border province. Beyond his professional role, he was the powerful head of a large clan with thousands of members in the region. This respected official had recently delivered legal training lectures, projecting an image of a law-abiding and pillar of society. Investigators found that his son was named Tang Chung, which matched the username found in the darkest corners of the web. A shocking coincidence emerged when they saw the son's birthday was September 13. Matching the killer's bicep tattoo, the son drove a car with a plate number 011 Shi, echoing the sequence of ones found in the executioner's handles. While the son had the clothes, his physical build did not match the heavy frame of the man in the videos. Attention returned to the father, whose receding hairline and muscular build were a near-perfect match for the masked figure. The father's official social media accounts were found to be following his own anonymous profiles in a circular digital chain. Digital footprints from 3 different identities, all traced back to a single OPPO Renault 12 5G mobile device. Recovery emails for these accounts were linked to a phone number ending in 62. Matching the official's public contact information. An anonymous source confirmed that the man in the private photos sent by the executioner was indeed Doan Van Sang. When investigators overlaid a medical mask onto his public photos, the eye shape and hairline aligned with chilling accuracy. A casual photo of the suspect at his workplace showed a receding hairline that mirrored the executioner in the video. Most decisively, 4 different images displayed the same unique circular birthmark on the outer left shin of both men. Another match was found on the front of the right shin, appearing in both official photos and the executioner's footage. The dark birthmark extending toward the armpit was also visible when the official's sleeve shifted in certain public photographs. The tattoo on the executioner's arm was placed in the same spot where Sang was known to have a marking. These physical markers created a profile that was impossible to dismiss as mere coincidence or a series of random events. In one of his TikTok videos, a green wooden door appeared that was identical to the one in the butchering video. Official government websites featured photos of the suspect with red patterned wall tiles that matched the kitchen of the crime. This evidence raised the horrifying possibility that the killing took place inside a government office during a public holiday. As a senior official, Sang had unrestricted access to multiple facilities and the tools required to process human remains. Local residents noted that the office was known for aggressive guard dogs, which explained the sounds heard in the background. The rehearsal video featured background details like a specific plastic plant and blue fan blades found in Sang's personal videos. The suspect's senior position within the agency provided him with a shield of respectability that initially deflected any serious public suspicion. During the Lunar New Year holiday, the government building remained vacant, offering a perfect, silent sanctuary for the perpetrator's ritual. Within these deserted halls, the official allegedly had access to industrial cookware and incinerators designed to destroy confiscated illegal goods. These professional tools were repurposed to eliminate the physical traces of a man who had sought a final, violent liberation. As the digital evidence mounted, the accounts belonging to the father and son began to exhibit erratic and defensive behavior. Both men suddenly entered the online group dedicated to the case and started posting aggressive messages to the amateur investigators. From the official's verified account, a chilling message appeared that claimed he was the executioner and mocked the public's reach. He allegedly stated that he had lived 60 years and was no longer afraid of the consequences of his artistic preservation. This bizarre shift in tone from a respected elder to a taunting antagonist suggested a man who felt completely untouchable. Earlier interactions revealed he had reacted with a laughing emoji to posts complaining about the lack of progress in the investigation. His son also posted a status that casually referenced human meat, further horrifying the community that was tracking their every move. Realizing the gravity of their digital exposure, the pair quickly deleted the incriminating posts. But the internet had already saved them. Despite the overwhelming evidence gathered by the public, the formal institutions continued to maintain a stance of absolute, systemic silence. The online community known as Onset refused to be intimidated and compiled their findings into a massive 88-page investigation report. This document laid out every digital footprint, physical marker, and geolocation clue that pointed toward the deputy principal's secret life. Within 4 days, an English translation was released to ensure the global public could see the truth the government ignored. Instead of opening a case, the local police issued an urgent warning, claiming the investigation file contained dangerous, malicious malware. Authorities ordered citizens to delete the file immediately or face legal consequences for spreading what they labeled as fake news. State-aligned newspapers echoed these threats, suggesting that clicking the link would lead to the total encryption of personal electronic devices. This aggressive attempt to suppress the crowdsourced archive only served to highlight the depth of the alleged government cover-up. Digital detectives watched as their posts disappeared, and accounts were wiped without explanation by the invisible hand of state censorship. The public realized that the fight for justice was now a battle against a system protecting one of its own members. It was only after the perpetrator was identified as a member of the Communist Party that the police finally acknowledged the crime. By late November, the abandoned headquarters of Market Management Team No. 4 was suddenly sealed off with heavy rolls of barbed wire. Large crowds of curious residents gathered outside the gates, watching as mobile police units and government vehicles arrived in the night. A local official finally confirmed that the massive law enforcement presence was connected to the social media reports regarding the suspect. While the perimeter was being secured, officers visited the victim's family home for the first time in over 10 years. The victim's mother revealed that her son had been missing since his father passed away, leaving him without a protector. Police collected hair samples for DNA comparison, while simultaneously continuing to warn the public that owning the investigation file was illegal. A leaked internal report later suggested that forensic examiners found no signs of artificial intelligence in the horrifying execution videos. Inside the team, number 4 offices, investigators reportedly discovered a kitchen and restroom that perfectly matched the layout of the crime. Beneath the sinks and inside the drains, they recovered suspected human teeth and bone fragments that had survived the cleaning process. A search of the suspect's residence uncovered the same jackets and heater that were visible in the background of the footage. Most damning was the recovery of the victim's mobile phone, which the suspect had allegedly given to his own sister. Facing the weight of the physical evidence, the former official allegedly confessed to the methodical slaughter of the man he met online. He claimed the victim had repeatedly begged for a ritual beheading and had even offered money to secure the secret location. The perpetrator described boiling portions of the body to delay decomposition before distributing the remains across various temporary garbage sites. He allegedly admitted to feeding parts of the victim to his aggressive guard dogs to ensure that no trace remained. The knives used in the ritual were supposedly tossed onto a passing tow truck to further obscure the path of the investigation. This somber confession confirmed the internet's darkest theories, while exposing the limitations of a system that only acted under extreme pressure. On December 3, the Ministry of Public Security finally released a photograph of the suspect in handcuffs between 2 officers. The official statement confirmed the murder but continued to label the community's investigation file as a dangerous and harmful document. This case stands as a haunting testament to a man who fell through the cracks of a society that failed to protect him. The victory of the online sleuths is bittersweet, as it reveals the terrifying power of those who can manipulate the truth. As the narrative concludes, the world is left to wonder how many other secrets remain buried beneath the weight of systemic silence. The digital trail uncovered by the anonymous investigators revealed that the victim had been living in a state of profound isolation. Systemic silence initially greeted the family's pleas, as the authorities allegedly showed no interest in handling the case, despite multiple warnings. It was the relentless work of the online community that finally forced the hand of a government protecting its own senior members. Investigators discovered that the perpetrator had been using multiple anonymous handles to bait vulnerable individuals into his twisted vision of immortality. The signature mark of the killer was not just physical, but digital, leaving a sequence of ones across every platform he touched. A haunting, somber reality emerged when the sleuths matched the suspect's public lecture photos to the horrifying background of the rehearsal video. Tactile details, like the specific blue fan blades and cabinet knobs, provided an irrefutable link to the deputy principal's private office. The perpetrator allegedly believed that by boiling the remains, he could erase the identity of the man he had successfully preserved. Systemic failure allowed a high-ranking official to operate a literal slaughterhouse within a government building for over 10 months without detection. The victim's desire for a staged death was met by a predator who viewed the act as a sacred, artistic ritual, even as the evidence became public. The state-aligned media attempted to frame the truth as a malicious malware threat to the public. This uncanny physicality of the crime scene was further confirmed by the aggressive guard dogs frequently heard in the background audio. The suspect's lack of remorse was on full display when he reacted with laughter to the public's desperate search for justice. Digital detectives found that the suspect's own son unknowingly provided the clues that led to the unmasking of the clan head. The dark birthmark on the suspect's bicep served as a permanent record of the date his twisted artistic vision was born. Thousands of people watched the perimeter of the market management office being reinforced with barbed wire as the truth finally broke. The perpetrator's status as a respected official and clan leader made him appear untouchable until the internet refused to look away. Records show that the suspect allegedly confessed to the crime only after the physical evidence became too overwhelming to deny further. He described a methodical process of destruction that involved feeding the victim's remains to animals to ensure a total disappearance. The victim's phone, a final piece of his digital soul, was found in the possession of the suspect's own family members. This atmospheric horror highlights the uncanny valley, where a trusted public servant secretly moonlights as a cold-blooded ritualistic executioner. Systemic silence was finally shattered when the Ministry of Public Security published the image of the suspect in heavy iron handcuffs. The 88-page document remains a forbidden archive that documents a truth the state still desperately wishes to suppress from the world. Investigators stated that the suspect had likely been operating in the shadows of the internet for years before meeting his final victim. The victim's mother was left to mourn a son who had been missing for a decade while the system stood by. Every detail of the crime, from the green door to the patterned tiles, painted a coherent picture of a systematic failure. The perpetrator's delusion of granting immortality was nothing more than a mask for a calculated and high-impact atmospheric crime of violence. Anonymous sleuths continue to wonder if other mannequins are currently hidden within the silent, vacant halls of the northern border. The haunting narrative of Nguyen Xuan Dut is a somber reminder that the most dangerous monsters often hold positions of power. As the investigation moves into its final phase, the digital world prepares for the next revelation in this dark, systemic tragedy. The digital footprints uncovered by the anonymous investigators revealed that the victim had been living in a state of profound isolation. Systemic silence initially greeted the family's pleas, as the authorities allegedly showed no interest in handling the case, despite multiple warnings. It was the relentless work of the online community that finally forced the hand of a government protecting its own senior members. Investigators discovered that the perpetrator had been using multiple anonymous handles to bait vulnerable individuals into his twisted vision of immortality. The signature mark of the killer was not just physical but digital, leaving a sequence of ones across every platform he touched. A haunting, somber reality emerged when the sleuths matched the suspect's public lecture photos to the horrifying background of the rehearsal video. Tactile details, like the specific blue fan blades and cabinet knobs, provided an irrefutable link to the deputy principal's private office. The perpetrator allegedly believed that by boiling the remains, he could erase the identity of the man he had successfully preserved. Systemic failure allowed a high-ranking official to operate a literal slaughterhouse within a government building for over 10 months without detection. The victim's desire for a staged death was met by a predator who viewed the act as a sacred, artistic ritual. Even as the evidence became public, the state-aligned media attempted to frame the truth as a malicious malware threat to the public. This uncanny physicality of the crime scene was further confirmed by the aggressive guard dogs frequently heard in the background audio. The suspect's lack of remorse was on full display when he reacted with laughter to the public's desperate search for justice. Digital detectives found that the suspect's own son unknowingly provided the clues that led to the unmasking of the clan head. The dark birthmark on the suspect's bicep served as a permanent record of the date his twisted artistic vision was born. Thousands of people watched the perimeter of the market management office being reinforced with barbed wire as the truth finally broke. The perpetrator's status as a respected official and clan leader made him appear untouchable until the internet refused to look away. Records show that the suspect allegedly confessed to the crime only after the physical evidence became too overwhelming to deny further. He described a methodical process of destruction that involved feeding the victim's remains to animals to ensure a total disappearance. The victim's phone, a final piece of his digital soul, was found in the possession of the suspect's own family members. This atmospheric horror highlights the uncanny valley, where a trusted public servant secretly moonlights as a cold-blooded ritualistic executioner. Systemic silence was finally shattered when the Ministry of Public Security published the image of the suspect in heavy iron handcuffs. The 88-page document remains a forbidden archive that documents a truth the state still desperately wishes to suppress from the world. Investigators stated that the suspect had likely been operating in the shadows of the internet for years before meeting his final victim. The victim's mother was left to mourn a son who had been missing for a decade while the system stood by. Every detail of the crime, from the green door to the patterned tiles, painted a coherent picture of a systematic failure. The perpetrator's delusion of granting immortality was nothing more than a mask for a calculated and high-impact atmospheric crime of violence. Anonymous sleuths continue to wonder if other mannequins are currently hidden within the silent, vacant halls of the northern border. The haunting narrative of Nguyen Xuan Dot is a somber reminder that the most dangerous monsters often hold positions of power. As the investigation moves into its final phase, the digital world prepares for the next revelation in this dark systemic tragedy. The final report from the Ministry of Public Security confirmed that Doan Van Sang was prosecuted on charges of murder. Despite the official arrest, the government still warns the public that sharing the community investigation file is a criminal act. State authorities allegedly continue to suppress the 88-page document by claiming it contains malicious malware designed to defraud citizens. This systemic silence serves to protect the reputation of the institutions rather than the memory of the tragic victim. Many observers believe that without the relentless work of the internet sleuths, this high-ranking official would still be free. The haunting reality of the case suggests that more than one side exists to every story told by official sources. Nguyen Xuan Dot was a deeply vulnerable man who needed psychological help but found a predator instead of a sanctuary. His story reveals how people are forced to fight for the truth in a society where information is strictly controlled. Investigators continue to ask if Sang had other victims hidden within the vacant government offices during his long career. The signature mark of this case remains a chilling reminder of the dark secrets that can hide behind respectability. A somber atmosphere lingers over the northern border provinces, where the echoes of the guard dogs still haunt the night. Tactile details of the crime scene were preserved only because the digital world refused to let the evidence be erased. The perpetrator's lack of remorse illustrates a delusional belief that he was an artist of human preservation and immortality. Systemic failure allowed the crime to happen. But the power of the collective internet brought the killer to justice. As the screen fades to black, the question remains whether the full truth of this horror will ever be known.